Howdy folks, welcome to another beautiful day out here in West Vancouver. Sorry, I'm just checking my mic because I did a whole video and then the mic stopped working and I didn't have any sound, so I'm redoing it. Any which way, welcome to another beautiful day out here in West Vancouver. It's just about 9 o'clock, the sun is about to set over the mountain over there and it has been a beautiful summer's day. They say that the 21st of June is actually the official start of summer in Vancouver. Not that spring has been here that long, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, today we talk about wildfires. I mean, I suppose it's high time that we do that. One of our viewers actually asked about the wildfires, and his question in particular was that why does Canada not do something about these major wildfires? You know, are they just not prepared? Do they just not care? Why do they let these fires burn? And the quick, simple answer here is that they don't let these fires burn. They try their best to take them out. But the reality is that these forest fires, these bush fires, I mean, man doesn't have the capability to stop them, unfortunately. No matter what we think in those big, beautiful planes that come and drop water and fire suppressant, what they do is they take out tiny little patches. But if you've ever been in a veld fire or a forest fire, you would know that we really don't have the power to do anything against it. We just don't, honestly. And the reality is that Canada is so big that there's so many fires burning, or it spreads so fast that there's just not enough manpower to even try and keep it under control, which is what they try and do. You know, when there's a fire, the firefighters, I mean, we'd like to say that they go out there to try and kill the fire, which they do, but generally what they're trying to do is just keep it under control until the weather conditions changes so that they can take it out. Because as long as the wind blows and it's dry, these fires just move too quick. Just not much you can do about it. Which brings me to a couple of ideas I've had, because believe you me, I've been thinking about these wildfires. I mean, that is a big problem. You're losing all of this beautiful land, the animals, everything there, so much property, houses are getting burned down. Actually, so much so, what is it? I read in California that there's 3 major insurance companies that have now stopped insuring homes in California because they're saying there's too much wildfires and it just isn't worth viable for them. It's just costing them too much to insure the homes there, so they are not insuring homes in California anymore, which means those poor people have got now less options, and the ones that do still insure, their premiums are going through the roof. So wildfires is a real problem, and believe you me, right now it's Canada because of the smoke that's blown through into New York. But remember the extreme wildfires in Australia last year, and the year before, was it? The year before? And then in South Africa, what was it, 2 years ago, when the whole place almost burned down there along the one coast? Fires or forest fires is something that is a worldwide problem. And it's not solvable. I think even in Turkey there were some major fires last year. We as humans are incapable of controlling those. For those of you that know fire, I know fire because I used to fight fires when I was a youngster in South Africa on the farm. Once a fire I lit myself. You know, you're like a kid and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to play with fire here. It's a little piece of grass and I'll just play a little bit here and do this and do that because I've got it under control. I mean, it's a little fire, I can put it out. You do not believe how quickly it spreads. A little bit of wind and off it goes, and there's nothing you can do. So, I mean, we fought fires and sprayed and protected the house when the fires were coming at the house, and we're standing there spraying with hose pipes on the house. Luckily, it was a little bit, the grass was short around the house. So I've had experience with it. And a fire, it's just much, much more powerful than what we are. Anyway. But having said that, so I've been thinking about these fires. What can we do? Because it is really something that I think humanity as a collective, or a bunch of us, should put our heads together and try and figure it out, because obviously what we're doing at the moment is not working. And I think there's 2 things that we need to think about here, and I'm open, please, in the comments, if you can think of more, just add it there. Let's try it. Let's see if we can figure something out. Maybe we can come up with an idea and send it up to the white coats so they can go try it. Anyway, there's two factors in a forest fire that I think we can attack. The first one is, obviously, the smaller a fire is, the better your chances are of taking it out. I mean, if you can catch the fire when it's only burning this size, you can do one of those plane drops and take it out and it's gone. The longer it takes to find a fire, the bigger it grows, and the bigger it grows, the smaller your chances of actually doing something about it is. I was reading in San Francisco, they've got these self-driving taxis, and the fire department has an issue with these self-driving taxis because they say what's happening is when the fire trucks come through, instead of pulling off of the roads, these things just stop because they see the flashing lights, they put on their hazards and they stop, and now there's no driver to move the thing. But the interesting part was not that. The interesting part of the article was that the fire department says that for every minute they get held up on their way to a fire, the size of that fire can almost double if it's like just started. So they reckon that minutes count. Now you can imagine that that is for a house fire or a office fire or a factory fire. If it spreads that quickly there, can you imagine what it does when you've just got kindling, dry wood and trees and grass and brush and things everywhere? These fires burn extremely hot and they move extremely fast. Anyway, back to the problem. We need to find them earlier. Now I know that there's fire watch towers that they used to have to spot fires earlier. I know that there's guys that's using satellite imagery to try and spot fires. But once again, by the time you see a fire from the satellite, it's already too late. You know, it's already a bigger fire. You're not going to see a tiny fire from satellite. So something I've been thinking about for a while now is, I don't know if you know about the Internet of Things. So basically little devices that can report on cellular networks, but there's actually a secondary network, and I can't remember what it's called now. It's not the actual cell network. It's a lower or a higher frequency network that covers a whole part of large parts of the earth, and I think it runs up here in Canada. And what it is used for is specifically for the Internet of Things, and you build these little devices that can send little reports through this network back home to wherever you want to send it, and it just kind of reaches everywhere. So I've been thinking, what if you create a tiny cheap little device that's got a battery that would last, some of those batteries can last 5-10 years, whatever. So you've got a tiny device with a battery, and it has a GPS location chip in it, and it has a broadcast, Internet of Things broadcast chip in it, and it's got a little heat sensor in it. You don't need it's a small device for that. And what happens is, as soon as it picks up that the temperature rises to over 100 degrees Celsius, or like where it's a fire, it starts reporting. Can you imagine how easily it would be, how well we would be able to spot these fires? All we have to do then is take those little devices and just go and carpet bomb the forests with it. I mean, you just go and you spread them out. You just throw them from aeroplanes and let them land somewhere in the forest, so that every couple of 100 meters there's one of those, and as soon as it picks up a fire, it sends a GPS location. You load the big planes with water and you just go hit it when it starts. So that's a thought. There's probably a lot of things wrong with that, but hey, it's a start. So if you have any ideas around that, please let me know, because I think something like that could work. And it's going to cost a fortune, but do you know what these fires are currently costing the world? It's just ridiculous. and that's just in loss of property. I'm not even talking about all the animals and the forest and everything else that's gone with these fires. The second idea I had was that the problem with a fire is also that it's not just a burning wall of flame that moves. Number one, that flame, no water is going to put it out. When those flames come, there's nothing you can do against it because it's just too hot. But the secondary problem is that it's all the embers. So what happens is when the fire burns, it sends these burning embers up on the heat streams into the sky, and that's what the wind does. The wind then blows those embers like a mile or 2 miles further, and they land in the forest and they start a new little fire there. That's what they mean when they say the fire jumped. That's why a road doesn't stop the fire. That's why the fire doesn't stop, because it jumps for 2 reasons. Those embers, and the other side is it burns so hot over here that a tree or something 30, 40, 50 meters away can spontaneously combust because of the heat from the fire on this side. So I've been giving it a bit of thought, and I mean, water doesn't help. The fire retardant sprays that they drop, that doesn't seem to help. It helps, but it's not solving the problem. Now, what they do occasionally is to save property, they have what's called fire retardant cloth. Now, you actually get stuff like that. It's a material, a fabric. A little bit, I suppose, a little bit thicker than a t-shirt, but it's a fabric. It's like a canvas, and it's fire retardant and heat resistant, and it can withstand, some of those can withstand heats up to 1,000 or 1,500 degrees Celsius. So it can take a shitload, a lot of heat. It can take a lot of heat, disregard the other word. It can take a lot of heat. And they actually do use it occasionally for shelters for the firemen. If they get in trouble, they can pull these things over them and try and save themselves. And they sometimes put it over homes in the forest to protect the homes, because all you need is, remember, those fires move so fast that extreme heat, it doesn't last for hours. The actual extreme heat, the front section of it, moves pretty fast in the wind, and it just needs to get past. Anyway, I'm off track. So think about this, picture this. What you do is you have giant sheets of this fire retardant fabric. I'm talking sheets that's 60 meters high. I mean, higher than the highest trees, wider than the highest trees. And what you do is you actually roll it out, and you have the bottom that can be filled with water or pegged down into the ground or something, so that it sits flat on the ground. And you go and roll these things out in front of the fire, or in strategic places in front of the fire. And then you have like weather balloons, helium balloons, that you attach to it, and what it does is it pulls this up like a curtain between the fire and the rest of the forest. I mean, theoretically, and that's what I'm thinking, I'm not a fire specialist, but theoretically, I would think that the fire would then burn up to this fabric, and because this fabric is protecting the trees behind the fire from the heat, they won't spontaneously combust, and the flames wouldn't get through. And then if you have your firemen working behind that with their water and their other stuff, it would be much, much easier to control the fire. If you can pull a curtain in front of the fire, or in front of sections of the fire, so that you can drive it to places where it can burn out. I mean, you're probably not going to be able to put a 100-kilometer fire curtain up, but I mean, you could protect property and protect places and give animals safe spaces and stuff like that. But that doesn't solve the problem of the embers, because if you think about it, you have this thing pegged to the ground, weather balloon at the top, you have this curtain hanging, you have the wind blowing. What's going to happen? The wind is going to blow it over, and you know, because that's generally one of the big issues with fires, when there's wind around, because the wind moves the fire. So it's going to kind of be leaning like this in the wind. And what is that going to cause? All of your embers are going to rise, blow against this thing, and just go over. But there is a way to solve for that as well. What if you take like a 20 meters wide sieve net? You create a net from the same fireproof material that you actually add to the top of this thing, and you curve it so that it sits like this. So what happens is the wind blows against it, the embers go against your fireproof curtain, they go up and they get caught in the net, because they only need to sit there for a few seconds, you know, 30 seconds, whatever. Those embers, they die out very quickly because they're on fire. It's very hot up there. They're going to go. So theoretically, I think you should be able to catch those embers in that net up there if you design it right. So what you can then do is when there's a fire, because right now the big fires, they can't even stop them at the roads because, you know, they just jump the road. It's like a road is nothing for a fire. Imagine you can have these trucks and it's like, oh, there's a fire coming from that way. So what we do is we run down the road and we just roll this thing off of the truck and we inflate it and we blow it up and boom, we have a fire curtain. It probably sounds idiotic, but hey, we need to start somewhere. We need to start thinking about this. There must be ways to make this better because it's getting a real problem. And with the planet heat picking up, global warming, whatever you want to call it, you know, it's going to happen more and more. Anyway, and I think that us as the public, the community, the people, if we all apply our minds to it, we should actually create a little bit of a pool or a portal or something where we can throw ideas and try and test ideas and see if we can find a solution. I mean, there must be a solution. There must be. Anyway, folks, that's a rough rant about the fire. You all must have a good one. And please, in the comments below, let me know what you think. If you think that some of the ideas carry merit, we can try and see if we can test them. If you have some other ideas, I would really appreciate it. Let's get the conversation going. I mean, surely there must be something we can figure out. And as humans, we always pat ourselves on the back and tell us how resilient and how smart humans are. So come on, let's prove it. All right, folks, have a good one. Cheers.